So the bottom line is that reputationally it's been a disaster. Financially, it's Armageddon. I mean, what is Harry on the hook for? Let's get down to brass tacks. 10, 15, $20 million is what Harry is facing.
Firstly, I'm devastated.
What the Daily Mail is seeking is costs on an indemnity basis. In effect, everything that they've paid for, as far as it's reasonably incurred, would have to be paid for by the claimants. And they're seeking somewhere around about $40 or $50 million.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy, what?
Has one word just cost Prince Harry $67 million? And by the way, it's $67 million he don't have because the money is running out.
The insurance company is likely, if they haven't already, alerted the team they're not going to pay, or they're going to fight having to pay because, first of all, the case should never have been brought, as Justice Nicklin warned.
They all said no. Elton said no. Charles said no. The insurance company said no. And right now, Harry is sitting alone facing a £50 million court case disaster with absolutely nobody coming to help him. What we just found out makes everything you have heard so far look minor.
The Daily Mail are pursuing Prince Harry for unlimited legal costs, and they're looking for $13.3 million from the claimants up front. And that is just the beginning.
Think about what this man actually had, not what he claims to have lost. What? He actually had a palace, a title that opened every single door in the world, a family that hundreds of millions of people across the globe adored, security for life, and Diana's name, the most powerful name in modern royal history, attached to everything he touched.
The fact that of all the famous people that came to Canada, all the presidents, all the prime ministers, the single biggest expense was Prince Harry. I mean, that does stick in the craw.
He never had to worry about a single bill. Not electricity, not a mortgage, not school fees, not the weekly grocery run, not one penny of it. For the rest of his natural life, that was the arrangement. Simply by being born who he was, Diana left her sons millions, money that had been carefully invested and quietly growing for decades. Every single penny of that inheritance is now heading straight toward a courtroom in London.
Queen Mother left Harry $10 million. To the rest of us, that sounds like, you don't have to worry. You're going to retire in style. You know, catastrophic illness, no problem. Harry's blown through it.
Gone.
What did he get from Diana? 30 million?
30 million from Diana. Gone. It's gone. And it's hard to understand that until you see the way that they live and the staff.
Most people spend their entire working lives hoping to leave their children something. A house, a few savings, something to hold on to when things get hard. Diana left Harry a name that opened every door in the world, a legacy powerful enough to carry him, his children, and his grandchildren through anything life could possibly throw at them.
My sources who are close to Meghan and Harry push back and say they were so arrogant, they assumed they would make it. They were so arrogant, they didn't care about spending because they foolishly assumed millions would be coming in. Never did.
He had 16 bathrooms, a private jet on call whenever he needed it, an invitation to every palace in Britain, a life that most people could only dream about on their very best day. And he walked away from every single piece of it.
If you remember the Princess of Japan, I think Meiko, she gave up absolutely everything and she lives a normal life. She is not protected by taxpayers around the world when she travels around because she chose to have a normal life. Harry and Meghan are taking the absolute piss.
Here's something that tends to get completely buried in every headline about Harry. He did not end up here because of the press. He did not end up here because of the palace or the establishment or some great conspiracy working quietly against him. Every choice that brought him to this moment was his own, specific, deliberate, made with full awareness of what he was giving up.
He went to that court for relief, saying, help me, this is the place to get help. And then when the court disagreed with him, he attacked the court.
There's only one other royal in living memory who threw away this much, this publicly, and this completely, His name is Andrew, and the palace has still not recovered from that chapter. But walking away from the palace was just a beginning, because what Harry then did inside that courtroom destroyed something far more valuable than any title. And when that moment arrived, everyone in that room knew it was over.
The ruling, it's over 400 pages and is blistering. And he was warned the case should have never proceeded to court. Their main witness had done a 180-degree turn. And so I do struggle to understand what the thinking was of the claimants after all of that information was developed.
11 weeks, 97 claims. Harry sitting in that courtroom, believing he was untouchable. He was wrong. The case had been building for years. Harry and 6 co-claimants, including Elton John, Elizabeth Hurley, Baroness Doreen Lawrence, and others, took Associated Newspapers, publisher of the Daily Mail, to court. The allegations were serious. They claimed stories published over 2 decades had been obtained through unlawful means. The people bringing the case were high profile, and leading it all was a member of the British royal family.
Lost every single claim, but some of the criticisms are quite devastating.
Well, you're so right about that. I'm no legal expert, but it really caught my eye that I believe there were 97 claims against the Daily Mail, all of them dismissed. Normally, it's like a parking ticket. Normally, you'll get done for something. But every single claim was thrown out. That's unusual, isn't it?
On paper, it looked like the kind of lawsuit that reshaped...
On paper, it looked like the kind of lawsuit that reshapes everything. Then Harry took the stand. He denied under oath attending a festival. Flat denial. Completely denied it. Then his own legal team produced a copy of Spare, Harry's own published memoir, and read aloud the passage where Harry himself described attending that exact festival.
A festival, I think it was. And the council, working on behalf of the Daily Mail, said, well, you wrote about going to a festival in your book, Spare.
In his own words, on the record, already in print. The courtroom went quiet. Not a journalist account. Not a palace source. Not an anonymous tip. His own memoir used to contradict the story he had just told under oath to a sitting judge. You already knew Harry lost this case. What most reports never properly covered was the moment his own words destroyed him from the inside. Then came Charlotte Griffiths.
Part of the trial. It related to Charlotte Griffiths, who's a good friend of mine. She's the editor-at-large of the Mail on Sunday. You know her well. And she went into court, and it was the position of the claimants and of Harry that he discovered that Charlotte Griffiths at the time, a couple of decades ago, was a journalist and cut off contact with her. Well, she's in the witness stand, and she says that's not the case. We had quite a protracted friendship in which her nickname for him was Mr. Mischief, and he spoke to her about movie snuggles. There was definitely a friendship there, if not more. Harry's position is, I didn't know who she was, found out she was a journalist, cut her off. Charlotte Griffiths then goes on to tell the court that it was she that cut off the prince following their various exchanges.
Harry told the court he had cut off contact with her the moment he discovered she worked as a journalist protecting his privacy. Reasonable response. Clean, simple story. She walked into that same courtroom and gave the judge a completely different account. She ended the friendship, not Harry. And throughout the time they knew each other, she had called him Mr. Mischief, a detail she confirmed openly in sworn testimony before a packed courtroom. 2 completely different versions of the same story. One from Harry under oath, one from a named witness under oath. The judge took everything he had seen and heard and produced a ruling running to 436 pages. He dismissed every single one of 97 claims. Not one survived, not 5, not 20, all 97 gone. It's been
It's been a reputational disaster because he sues the one newspaper that never hacked, which was the Daily Mail. He incurs the wrath of the legendary Paul Dacre, who was the editor at the time of these allegations. Harry has annoyed Mr. Justice Franklin, the heroic judge, at certain points in the trial, saying it's not your job to litigate. That's why you've got lawyers.
Imagine walking into a British court and being caught contradicting yourself with your own published words. What do you think the consequences would be for you or me? That question is burning through comment sections across Britain and America right now.
It just discredits him as a person and him as a character, as a human being, as to what he's trying to achieve from all of this. It's just got so messy that it's damaged the case.
We're going to answer it directly before this video is done. Diana spent her entire life standing for truth and honesty above everything else. Here was her son being caught between what he swore under oath and what he had already told the world in his own book. Losing was catastrophic enough on its own, but what came immediately after made it unimaginably worse.
This mission. So he's someone who was not very bright, but who had this idea that he is going to be the person that brings the British press down and changes the way we behave.
The statement was not an emotional reaction, not something said in the heat of the moment outside the courthouse. It was written and prepared in advance.
This was not an off-the-cuff, angry statement. You know, they knew about the verdict beforehand. And also, frankly, I don't think Harry's smart enough to come up with an off-the-cuff statement. So this statement was prepared at least a day in advance. And what was interesting about it, it was only Baroness Lawrence and Harry on it.
Harry and Baroness Lawrence released a joint public statement calling the verdict a complete and obvious whitewash. They described a judge who had spent months carefully producing 436 pages of detailed analysis as corrupt, as someone who had covered things up rather than examine the evidence before him.
Of course, is what we saw with these very senior judges speaking out to the Times a couple of weeks ago, saying that Harry's statement had put Nicklin at risk, and that it was ironic that here's a man claiming that he's been put at risk and he is targeted, sort of inciting hatred, frankly, against this judge by suggesting that he was corrupt.
Two independent lawyers, one practicing in London, one based in California, who had never spoken to each other, were each asked separately to respond to it. They reached the same conclusion, using almost identical language. Insolent, intemperate. Attacking the judge who is about to decide how much you owe is a bit like complaining loudly about the food at a restaurant where the chef is also your bank manager.
There's a real kind of arrogance there too, actually, with the whole whitewash comment after, which is whatever solicitor he said, whatever lawyer he said, they would have said, don't do that. That is a stupid thing. And he still did it. And he still brought Doreen Lawrence into it. And that kind of shows you that he has that real arrogance and that stubbornness that he won't listen to what people say.
You simply do not do it. And if you do, you pay for it. The Daily Mail's legal team is now using that statement inside the courtroom as direct evidence supporting their demand for full indemnity costs. The difference between standard costs and indemnity costs in a case this size is not measured in thousands of pounds.
Doubly so when the language reads as an attack on the judiciary itself rather than just an adverse result. English costs rules explicitly bake conduct into the calculation. Under Civil Procedure Rule 44.2, judges can move a losing party.
It is potentially tens of millions more. And Harry handed them that argument himself with his own words. There was one name completely missing from that statement. Elton John. He was shown every word before it went public. He read it carefully. He understood exactly what signing it would cost him personally. He chose not to add his name.
Statement is being used by the Daily Mail. They are saying that the statement sort of shows the bad faith of two of the claimants, Harry and Doreen Lawrence, who put their name to that statement. It's interesting that the other five didn't put their name to it, isn't it?
To understand why that matters, you need to go back to where this friendship actually began. Elton and Diana were inseparable. When she died, he sat in Westminster Abbey and performed Candle in the Wind before the entire watching world. He made a quiet, personal promise to look after her boys. For years, he honored it. Private jet access whenever they needed it. A personal performance at Harry and Meghan's wedding. It was Elton who introduced Harry to the lawyer, who set this entire lawsuit in motion. He donated to Archwell. He stood alongside them publicly and privately for years.
Let's remember what Harry said in Spare. How he and Meghan were flown down to the south of France by Elton John and David Furnish, introduced to David Sherborne, who pointed out to him that he had cause for legal action. This was the start of it all. This was the beginning of the great con.
Then Harry flew to Elton's home in the south of France before the verdict was even announced. He did not go to discuss the legal situation. He went to ask for Invictus funding, while already knowing the legal bill was arriving. Elton said no. Harry was reportedly devastated by the refusal. Elton John has written some of the greatest songs in recorded history, but there is no song in the world that covers a £50 million legal bill between friends.
Elton John and Harry might well be wetting their beds, as they ought to. Now, Elton John can afford it far more than Harry, because Elton John makes a great deal of money off The Lion King, believe it or not. That's his main source of income. Harry doesn't have a main source of income anymore.
The friendship Diana built, the bond she believed would protect her boys when she was gone, is now a casualty of a lawsuit she would never have approved of. With Elton gone, there was only one person left Harry could turn to. And what really happened at H. Highgrove was not the story anyone was sold. Over 1,000 people across every major royal channel voted on the real reason Harry flew to Highgrove. Every single one of them was right. It was never about family. It was about money. The newspapers framed it as something deeply moving. Father and son. Elaine Parrott says, "The king has done nothing to welcome Harry and Meghan back." Clears throat.
Parrott says, "The king has done nothing to welcome Harry and Meghan back. He offered Harry the chance to stay in an unoccupied palace, which is currently a building site. He allotted them a bare minimum amount of his time at Highgrove, in front of witnesses, including Queen Camilla. Afternoon tea can be socially quite cool, and not in the sense of, oh, it's so cool. Cool in the sense of, oh, my dear."
Grandchildren finally meeting the grandfather they had been kept from for years. A royal family quietly healing behind closed gates. Sources use warm language, a positive step, a new beginning. Then Clive Alderton resigned. 20 years. That is how long Alderton had served as the most powerful aide in the royal household. He managed the coronation, the death of the Queen.
Buckingham Palace will soon begin the search for a new principal private secretary as Sir Clive Alderton prepares to step down in May of 2027 after 20 years in the royal household. Often described as the king's most trusted advisor, the role oversees the king and queen's official engagements, provides strategic counsel, and helps manage major events such as the coronation.
The Andrew crisis, Harry's departure, all of it. He understood every corner of that institution and spent 2 decades keeping it standing through everything that came at it. He walked away within days of the high visit. Alderton had spent his entire career keeping Harry at a careful and deliberate distance from the palace. His departure was not a coincidence. The people inside those walls understand exactly what it signals and precisely why the timing matters.
We have no evidence either way, but the timing is, of course, suspicious. It certainly seems as if this was a role that Sir Clive Alderton thoroughly enjoyed. You had to watch him only when Andy Burnham became Prime Minister and Keir Starmer resigned to see him there greeting the Prime Minister, the outgoing and the new Prime Minister. Clearly loved his role. 60 is quite an early age at which to leave the position of Private Secretary, although it's a nice round number after 20 years to do. But certainly knowing full well the reticence and the desire to keep Harry as distant as he can from the palace, it does seem rather strange of a coincidence. I'm trying to be diplomatic here. It does seem rather strange of a coincidence that this should happen at the same time.
Harry then immediately briefed the Daily Mirror about his ongoing demands for government-funded security during what was supposed to be a completely private family visit.
This is Prince Harry speaking on the record about this to the Daily Mirror. Listen carefully. The Duke continues to make the case that he and his family face an enduring security risk by virtue of the circumstances of his birth and his membership of the royal family.
Throughout the entire meeting, not for warmth, for the record, Charles reportedly gave Harry the exact same answer Elton had already given him. I am not a bank. Now, where was Meghan during all of this? Not in the courtroom, not in the whitewash statement, not at Highgrove, not publicly visible anywhere throughout the entire saga. Multiple sources confirm Meghan understood the financial reality of this case from very early on and have been deeply worried about the direction it was heading.
I think one of the biggest stresses in the marriage within Harry and Meghan at the moment is the financial pressure, Paula.
She reportedly pushed for a settlement back in December. Harry refused and pressed forward regardless. She let him take every headline, every photograph outside the courthouse, every penny of the blame, and every consequence that followed. Then, within days of the Highgrove visit, while Harry was managing the most expensive legal catastrophe of his life, Meghan was at a private Hollywood dinner party in California.
Yeah.
Meghan, by your reporting, was made to wait outside in the metaphorical hall alone while Harry went in first to see King Charles. The children went in first to see King Charles. Meghan was last to be granted entry. Tell us what this means. It's not just a humiliation of Meghan, but the royal family is telling her something very stern non-verbally.
Martha Stewart, who has built a genuine empire from nothing and has absolutely no motivation to lie about any of this, confirmed it publicly. Meghan was sitting at the table telling wealthy Californians the details of the meeting with King Charles. She followed every rule. No photographs of Highgrove, no public statements. She just told everyone in the room about it over champagne instead.
For them to reveal to the details that Meghan did, she might as well have dropped a red pin in the map and confirmed that what was previously rumors that they had purchased a property in the Costa Terra Golf Resort, it was rumored. It was never, ever confirmed. And look, that was the private beach access from inside the Costa Terra Beach Resort. So she has revealed exactly where they were staying.
Thousands of people have been asking the same question for weeks now. If the money disappears completely, how long before everything else follows? That question becomes far more urgent when you hear what we now know about the one safety net Harry had left. Before the case began, the 7 claimants took out a joint insurance policy worth $6.2 million. Think of it as a safety net. If they lost the case, this money would cover a significant portion of whatever costs were awarded against them. The first problem is straightforward. The Daily Mail's confirmed legal costs stand at $34.5 million. Even if the insurance pays out every single penny in full, there's still an 18 pounds.
Insurance in this case was around about $2.5 million per claimant. So it's fairly limited. So it means that if they lose the case and damages are awarded against them, or the costs are awarded against them higher than the $2.5 million, then they have to stump up from their own pockets. And so if Harry's bill is, say, $10 million, which it may well be in respect of his costs, then clearly there is a large shortfall which he'll have to find.
$3 million gap, sitting there with nowhere to go. But the second problem is the one that has barely been reported, and it is far bigger. The insurance company may not pay anything at all. 3 specific reasons give them the legal right to void the policy completely. First, the judge confirmed across 436 pages that the case was pursued without sufficient evidence to support the claims made.
24 of the articles and the arguments, the allegations were without proper evidence, according to the judge.
Insurers do not cover litigation they determine was brought in bad faith. Second, Harry contradicted himself under oath using his own published words. That is precisely the kind of conduct giving an insurer the legal right to walk away from a policy entirely.
The insurance company is likely, if they haven't already, alerted the team they're not going to pay, or they're going to fight having to pay because, first of all, the case should never have been brought, as Justice Nicklin warned.
Third, the whitewash statement publicly continued allegations against the Daily Mail after the court had already ruled against the claimants. Legal teams are now examining whether that constitutes a direct breach of policy terms. Think of it this way. If you claimed on your car insurance after an accident and the company discovered you had driven into the other vehicle deliberately, they do not have to pay.
Harry has crossed over the line and really should be made to stand down and be stripped of all of his royal privileges, is in having attacked Mr. Justice Nicklin, having attacked him for being corrupt, having asserted that it is a whitewash, and that but for it being a whitewash and Mr. Justice Nicklin being corrupt, Harry would have prevailed. Now, Harry is a prince of this realm. It is totally unacceptable.
They can void the policy and walk away completely. And right now that insurance company is asking very serious questions. If the policy is voided, Harry personally faces a full amount with absolutely nothing covering it. But there is one more detail that almost nobody has explained clearly yet. And this one changes everything. The Daily Mail does not have to split this bill equally between 7 people under joint and several liability. They can legally choose any single person and demand the entire amount from them alone.
And it's even worse than that, Mark, because the claimants are also jointly responsible for the common parts of the claim as well as severally liable. So one claimant may have to pay the costs of all the other claimants.
Baroness Lawrence is officially exempt. Harry personally and publicly guaranteed her costs. Simon Hughes described the verdict as very disappointing and said nothing further publicly. Elizabeth Hurley cannot absorb a bill of this magnitude. Sadie Frost cannot either. David Furnish reportedly told Harry directly, "I am not your ATM." That leaves Elton and Harry. Elton already said no, as Harry comes out.
As Harry comes out, says it's a whitewash, casts aspersions on the judge and the way the case has been handled. It's not a sensible approach for him to do. I think even the other claimants have tried to move against that decision and say, well, look, that was him. Part of the arguments that we're now seeing in court today, probably see tomorrow, is that some of the claimants are saying, well, look, this shouldn't affect the other claimant.
Picture going to dinner with 6 friends. Everyone orders freely from the most expensive menu in the restaurant. When the bill arrives, every single person at the table quietly disappears, and you are sitting there alone with a full amount in front of you. That is Harry right now.
He is the one who made these outrageous allegations that were proven to be false. And then, like everything else in his life, just saying like, well, I'm just going to walk away and let somebody else pick up the tab. Yep. I think this is the time for him to pay the bill.
If you have been asking why Harry is not facing criminal charges, you are not alone. Hundreds of thousands of people across Britain and America are demanding the same answer, and they deserve one given directly. Perjury means lying under oath in a court of law. In the United Kingdom, it is a criminal offense carrying a potential prison sentence of up to 7 years.
He has been not only suborning perjury, Harry has been suborning disrespect for the law generally for some time now. He needs to be stopped.
Harry took the stand and described his relationship with Charlotte Griffiths in terms she directly contradicted under sworn testimony. He denied attending a festival that his own published memoir confirms he attended. 2 separate incidents, both fully documented, both on the official court record. If you or I sat in a British court and were caught contradicting ourselves with our own published words, we would not be preparing for the next visit to Buckingham Palace.
We have to thank the heavens that he didn't end up staying in Buckingham Palace on his most recent visit, because it would have been from Buckingham Palace that he actually questioned one of the King's judges' verdicts. That whole statement about the whitewash, that would have come out from the palace. Can you imagine that? So yeah. He is a liability. Still now, in 2026, he's proving himself a liability to the palace. He just tried to, in essence, say that he was kicked out of the palace by the royal family, who basically revoked the invitation to him. So he's still up to his old tricks now. So he clearly hasn't learned a lesson.
Prince Andrew faced consequences that permanently changed his life for conduct that never once reached criminal territory. He lost his military titles, his royal patronages, his entire public standing within the institution gone, without a single criminal charge ever being brought. Harry still holds his titles. He remains listed on the royal website. He is still a Councillor of State, still fifth in line to the throne.
He should be not only stripped of his princely rank, he should be stripped of his Royal Highness. He should be prevented, whether it requires an act of Parliament or not, from being able to perform as a Councillor of State.
The Times of London, the most establishment newspaper in Britain, has already called publicly for his titles to be removed. Parliament is actively being asked to strip his Councillor of State status. Multiple senior legal voices have raised the perjury question openly and on the public record.
Lost his royal status. He's lost his military honours. All the ceremonial stuff has gone. He's got no relationship with his brother William, who's his only connection to their late mother Diana. He's on friendly, polite and diplomatic terms with his father, but no more than that. He's stuck in America, in California.
And building quietly in the background is something that has received almost no coverage yet. The Senable case, the charity Harry named after Diana's own childhood nickname. No confirmed number, no guaranteed insurance payout, no support from Elton, nothing from Charles, complete silence from Meghan. Every decision Harry made brought him to this exact moment. Every door that is closed right now, Harry closed himself. When that August 28th judgment drops, this channel will break down every detail the moment it lands. The videos on your screen right now will catch you up on everything you need to know. Watch them now.